last night I had a one-night stand with Ratchet and Clank.
So is it a three-way?
A crack in time.
And what?
Well, actually, in the
one-night stand, so you're not going to play it anymore?
You had a cracking time?
No,
or
it was so
a
good, I'm
cracking
going
time?
back for more tonight.
And how does your wife feel about this?
Yeah, she wasn't in the room, so. And actually, because of the way this game is set up, it is not a threesome. I have not rejoined the tandem yet. So right now I've only been playing as Ratchet or as Clank, but not with the two together in tandem. Because if you remember, at the end of the last full game, he was sort of taken away by those small aliens, and everyone kind of wonders what happened.
Way to spoil the last game for all those people who haven't played it. Because there's a lot of people who are buying PS3s right now who couldn't afford them before, who are going to get that game.
Well,
and you just hate PS3 owners, don't you, Shane?
They've already had the DLC game that was along with that.
Again, and truth be told, at the beginning of this game, while the game installs, you're forced to watch a cinema that goes over everything that I just said. So,
bastards.
I'm actually not harming anyone in any way.
And we're going to put that cinema up on game trailers. So what are the weapons like? Look, Ratchet and Clank is all about the weapons. Everything else is so derivative. Talk about the weapons.
Well, so far, I'm probably about 7 or 8 hours into the game. Yes, I've played one game for 7 or 8 hours in one night again. So I haven't got to a lot of the newer weapons, honestly. I do have the one bullfrog weapon, which is called the Sonic something or other. And basically, it's
I thought it looked like a belching pig, but yeah.
It's a frog, and it blows up its mouth, and then actually there's some kind of a element to it where the closer you get to firing the weapon when his jaws are at their biggest capacity, the bigger the blast is. It's a cool weapon. It's funny. I think that's what I really liked about Ratchet and Clank weapons in the past, is that not only are they fun to use and effective, but they also have sort of a comedic element to it.
That's always been the selling point. The weapons have been really cool because, you look at the other stuff, yeah, they do stuff very, very well, but it's a lot of stuff that's executed well, but you don't really see a lot of new cool things.
Right. Well, this weapon in particular, when you use it, it's funny, but you don't feel like it has a big impact. But I used it on a boss, and I killed him in like 4 blasts. So it's kind of weird. It's like you're shooting someone with like air, so it doesn't seem like it's hurting them, but it actually does a lot of damage.
Maybe it's really smelly air. Maybe we're back on the farting thing again.
Yeah. And then the hover boots, obviously, is the big addition to this game. And I got those last night a couple hours before I ended up falling asleep. And basically all they allow you to do is just skate along the ground. You can turn them off or on at any point that you want to. Obviously, you get a lot more speed, so you can make a lot bigger jumps. But more than that, most of the levels are sort of designed where, hey, here's this part where you use the hover boots. And you can usually pick up on that because they're sort of jet ramps or whatever.
So it's the same as the
so we do have the roller skates finally in one of these games.
Yes, actually.
So it's like the on-rail section, literally the grinding on the rail section from the last game. Where you'd
and there's some of that in this game too, but it isn't like you're on a rail. You can fall off and you can die while you're using the hover boots. It is pretty generous in the leeway that you have. The steering, I think they did a really good job with it to make sure you don't feel like you're completely out of control. They've made the platforms wide enough that you don't feel like you're constantly like on the edge of dying or whatever. I think my first impression of the game so far is that it's really easy. And I know Ratchet games, I don't know. To me, the games on the PlayStation 2 had a nice challenge level. And granted, I'm not at the end of the game, but so far, it's been really easy. They give you weapons, and it's paced very well that way. And as soon as you use a weapon for a half hour or 45 minutes, you get some new gadget or some new gun to use. And so it keeps you engaged, and it keeps you sort of, they're just sort of feeding you the little bits, the breadcrumb trail. And it's really good at that. But, I just feel like so far I haven't really been challenged a lot. There hasn't been a whole lot of platforming, and the platforming that's there is like the stuff you'd get in the first level of like a Mario game. There have been times where I felt like the game has been made for kids, I guess.
So can you upgrade the weapons like you could before where you collect all the points? Have you been able to upgrade anything to some really bizarre
I've upgraded
effects?
my blaster to like 3 levels. Obviously that's really handy because it automatically locks onto enemies, and so you can just basically spam that button. And since I've busted it up 3 times now, that's probably what's made the game really easy. Yeah. Is that the gun fires so rapidly, and I've powered it up 3 times that literally I shoot any enemy twice or 2 or 3 times and they're dead. So I haven't really hit that part of the game yet where I feel like I'm being challenged, but the bottom line is the game is fun. It's like I said, it's very well paced. The writing is great, as in all the Ratchet and Clank games. The Captain Quark is a much bigger part of this game. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone, but
what about Clank? Does his levels play out differently or what?
Yeah, they're a lot different actually. And you don't
Is he still doing secret agent moves? You're stealth killing guys?
No. It's weird because when you start out, you literally just have like a simple melee attack and a jump. And then as you go on in the game, you sort of go into this, and again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. You go into this sort of secret level, and then you get sort of the next set of his abilities. You get, we're going to show it. So you get a staff that you can use, and I'm not going to explain how you get it, but he ends up getting a staff that he can use for melee attacks. But these secret levels that he has, they remind me a little bit of the challenge levels in Super Mario Galaxy, where they're just kind of gauntlets that you run through, and there isn't exactly a theme around the worlds. So that was kind of cool. And one thing I'll say about this too is that as I've played it, I've seen a lot of elements of different games in this. It's like you can tell Insomniac is a huge fan of Nintendo games because there's also a free overworld that you fly around in a ship like Star Fox. And there's no vertical plane, it's just side to side. And then you can go from planet to planet or rock to rock, and each rock will hold like things that you have to collect. And you can go to this screen where you see, okay, I've collected X amount of everything from all these different planets. And you can free roam around, and you can find characters from the Ratchet and Clank universe in that sort of big universe that connects all the major planets. And they'll give you side missions like, hey, my convoy's being attacked by all these ships. Can you go and clear them out? You'll go back. They'll give you like bolts as a reward that'll help you eventually when you go to buy new weapons and things like that. So it has this sort of overworld that connects all those planets together, and then to get to those planets, you need to collect certain numbers of objects from that overworld.
Right.
And that will upgrade your ship, which allows you to get through force fields surrounding planets so you can get to that new planet. It's all tied together very nicely. This game is like a collector's wet dream, basically. And we haven't had games like this for a while, where literally you have these lists of things that you need to collect.
Just a bunch of numbers you want to see go up.
You want to see go to 3 out of 3 or whatever. And because of the one screen that gives you a very simple layout of everything, it's very easy to figure out where you need to go and what you need to do. I haven't been confused at any point. But it does give you a little more latitude than you had in past Ratchet and Clank games to kind of go on your own way and do side quests and do some fun stuff if you're not interested in just going back into the grind of the quest.
And what about visually? How are you feeling about that?
It looks the same.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I want to like fire up the last game just to make sure that my memory, because these games increase so gradually now visually. Mine is something like Uncharted where you see that huge leap. But most games it's so gradual that you think it hasn't improved until you actually go back and you sort of look side by side.
Right.
So I don't want to completely pass judgment on that. I haven't fired up the old game, but to me it looks predominantly the same. The engine is impressive though. I mean, there are some major battles in there where literally you have 20 or 30 enemies on screen. You may have somebody fighting alongside you who's also sort of firing off bolts and causing huge explosions. You're firing off the crazy weapons. Things are exploding into thousands of nuts and bolts, and I haven't seen a hiccup in the frame rate yet. So one thing I will say is the game runs better. As far as if it looks better or not, I'll probably have to reserve judgment, but on first impression I would say it doesn't. But enjoying the hell out of it. It's a Ratchet and Clank game. So far, I would say I'm enjoying it a little bit more than the last one. I think it does kind of stay to the formula pretty strictly. It's not like a brand new experience. The open world stuff is cool. It gives you more latitude in how you tackle the game. And overall, it's good.